Hello, this is Mark Ettery from the Delaware Department of Education. This instructional video is intended to assist LEAs with changing their monitoring tool in response to having it turned back on or around February 4th from DDOE. So where we're going to start is actually with this eGrants monitoring process workflow guide. There is a link to this document on the eGrants website. Feel free to go ahead and open that up if you've not already looked at that. And where we're going to start in the workflow is actually small Roman numeral 4. And this is where LEAs are right now in the workflow. You're awaiting status change back to DDOE manager returned, not approved. And we anticipate that this will be done by February 4th. And so what we're looking at then is from the LEA's perspective, what do we do next once that is sent back? You'll know that the monitoring tool has been sent back because you will receive a report from DDOE that's got some information in terms of the number of questions that were completed versus those that are still in need of being completed. Again, nothing evaluative, it's just for informational purposes. And you'll also receive an automated message from the system that will have verbiage very close to this quote, DDOE manager returned, not approved. So you get these two pieces of information back, and then in the workflow, the monitoring tool is in a workspace where the LEAs, again, can be working with it, making changes, additions, those kinds of things. And so in order to know what to do next and where to make changes and what the feedback is from the program managers, you're actually going to be working mostly within the tool itself. And so this is just sections in the monitoring tool. It's the same place where the questions were originally answered. And in this video, we're going to do some toggling back and forth between this LEA's sections and the workflow document that we all have access to. And so the first thing that you would do, and the first place that you would look, is going to be the consultant checklist. And so for this LEA, we're going to go back into sections, and we're going to find that under monitoring results, we see consultant checklist. And so I'm going to do a single click on consultant checklist. And again, this is the first place that we're going to look for DDOE program manager feedback. So we're going to see a set of numbers, 1 through 50. And each of these numbers correspond to the questions in the monitoring tool. Now, not every question needed to be answered for this submission. It was really just the questions that correspond to October and December. And so if we look at number 1 as an example, we read that this is the same question in sections. LEA has presented a link to the annual report card on the LEA website. So we see the question. We see the program manager who reviewed the question. In this case, it's Tanisha Cook. And we see that Tanisha marked this question as OK. And OK is one of the statuses that we will see. Another example. Number 3, here's the question, the wordage. We can see that the program manager is Eric Stansell, and Eric Stansell marked this question as not applicable. Another example, question number 5. We see the wordage of the question. We see the program manager again as Eric Stansell, and for this particular question, it's attention needed. And so again, on the consultant checklist, we see all 50 questions. We can see the program managers who've reviewed those questions. We can see the status of each question. This is the first place that we look. I'm going to go ahead and toggle back to the workflow, and we see it here also, right? We go into consultant checklist. We review status of each numbered item in the checklist is one of the following. OK, and if it says OK, there's nothing left to be done. The question and the uploads that go with that question are completely acceptable. Attention needed. We go ahead and go to the corresponding bubble comments. I'll show you that in one moment. But basically, attention needed are the questions where there's going to be some kind of feedback from the program manager, and you'll be able to look in the system to see specifically what that is. If it says NA, it just means that the question is not applicable. And if it says pending further review, these were items that were just not due yet. So pending further review items that were due, but the LEA has not answered just yet, or items that were not yet due. And again, there's no problems here whatsoever. This entire process that I'm describing here is not evaluative in any way, shape, or form. It's simply giving feedback. All right. And so this is the first place we look, is the consultant checklist. Now, after the status change, we review comments next to the questions, and we look at narrative feedback from program managers. That's where it's viewable. So again, the first place we look is consultant checklist. The second place we look is actually next to the questions themselves. And so what we're going to do in order to see the questions themselves is go to sections. Right? And again, I'm going to toggle back and forth a little bit just to make this completely clear. We're in sections, which is the same place where the questions were originally answered. If I want to access questions 1 through 8, all I have to do is click on the link through 1 through 8, of 1 through 8, excuse me, and I will see the question along with the answer that was selected by the LEA, that is. All right, so this is the first section. Now, going back to the workflow, I'm going to review comments next to the questions, and I'm looking for narrative feedback, right? And I know which questions are attention needed, again, by looking at consultant checklist. So just for redundancy, we're going to go to the consultant checklist where we just were, and we're going to look for the first question that we see that was marked attention needed. And this is basically the process that you're going to want to use to go ahead and make changes. So look at number 1, it's okay. I look at number 2, it's okay. 3 is not applicable. 4 is okay. But then when I get to 5, I can see that there's attention needed for 5. Again, I'm in consultant checklist. Now that I know that number 5 is attention needed, I can go to sections and look for number 5, which is going to be within parent notifications 1 through 8. And when I get to question number 5, these are the bubbles, the comment bubbles. One of these 3 bubbles is populated with red lines, so I know that the program manager has left comments for the LEA here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And the comment left by the program manager was, please provide an example of the letter that you would provide if this would occur in the future. And you can see that there's a time and a date stamp there. So this is how, as an LEA, you will go in and figure out what the program manager feedback is. You're going to look for your questions that are marked as attention needed. Let's do one more. Again, we start in consultant checklist. This was number 5 that was marked attention needed. So we're going to continue to scroll down to look for the next one that's attention needed. It looks like number 8 is also marked attention needed. So we know that we need to go ahead, go to sections to look for question 8, which again is in that same string of questions in 1 through 8. We go to question 8. And we can see that in question 8, one of these bubbles is actually populated with red lines. So we know that the program manager has left us with comments. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that bubble. And the program manager says, consider additional evidence to support how the district is providing effective outreach to EL parents. So then the LEA would take this information, this feedback from program managers, and go ahead and make these changes. So what we've done so far, we've looked in the consultant checklist to identify the questions that are attention needed. We went into sections and we've reviewed comments next to the actual questions. This is where the narrative feedback from program managers is viewable. And there's one more place where we can look, and that's called issues review. And so always remember that when you're working in the monitoring tool, sections is a great springboard to basically get anywhere that you want to. So I'm back in sections again. And the third out of 3 places that we're going to look is actually called issue review. And this doesn't give any different information, but it does just provide another lens through which we can see good information that will help the LEAs to go ahead and make the changes that need to be made. And so basically, any program manager feedback that was given in any area is all pooled here. All the bubble comments are pooled here. And so, for example, we looked at the bubble comment for number 5. That's here. We looked at the bubble comment for number 8. That's here as well, right? And 5 and 8 all fall under parent notifications in section 1 through 8. And so if we were to take the time in this screencast to go through every single question that was attention needed, we would individually see all of this. So this is actually a very, very nice tool as well. And again, think of it as just another lens through which to look at the feedback coming from program managers. So issues review was 3 of 3. And so we're asking LEAs to go ahead and make needed changes and additions to prepare for the next quarterly submission, which does not take place until March 6th, and then again on April 30th. And what we will be looking at is following these next 2 submissions, approximately 2-week program manager turnaround. We repeat this process with a final submission that will take place on June 1st. And again, here we have listed each program manager along with the questions that they are responsible for leading and for providing feedback to the LEAs for. And that basically completes the process. If you have any questions, comments, concerns whatsoever, please feel free to shoot me an email or give a call. All of my contact information is on the eGrants homepage. I do hope that this instructional video is helpful, and thank you all for the great work that you've done so far, and thank you LEAs in advance for the rest of the work that will be done this year. The pilot is going extremely well. We know that it's going to be a great success. So thank you for that. Okay, have a great day. Thanks again.